Hello there YouTubers, this is 1995express and it's the new year, 2015. Happy New Year! This also means that it's the 70th anniversary of the Railway series. And it's also the anniversaries of a number of other things I like, but I won't talk about them right now. I got a very long list of questions here that are waiting to be answered, so let's dive right in. First YouTuber is Thomas the Tankman 111, and his first question is, will you ever produce an episode 2 for the Magic Road Adventures? Oh, so are we getting to the point in which people are so impatient that they'll just repeat the same question over and over again? I already answered this in part 1 of the Q&A. However, for the sake of you fans, I'll say it again. Oh, and do me a favor. Once you get the answer for this question, please pass it on to other YouTubers before they think to ask this question. Okay? Okay. Here's my answer. Yes, I will produce the next episode of the MRA. It's no longer episode 2, it's now episode 1 since I made the beginning, the prologue of the series. And you'll have to wait a while because I'm currently working on another movie project right now. Actually, if it's alright with you guys, I'd like to backtrack and start the MRA all over again. Now, I know what you're thinking. No! Well, truthfully, while the prologue has been very popular, it was made back at a time when I could only make videos under 10 minutes and no longer. As a result, much of the storyline had to be cut, and some scenes weren't able to be in the final video. For instance, I had wanted to show Lady create the Magic Railroad, but all I was able to show was her opening the portals to the railway. The movie project I'm currently working on has been, and is, a learning curve for me. It's enabled me to learn new film techniques that I wasn't able to do back in 2010. For instance, I've improved the magic buffers effect so that it's more like the one in the film. It also gives me a chance to make Lady more applicable and to create sets that can be used in the MRA. Also, I've been able to flesh out the story more over the past 4 years so that more information and correct facts can be given to explain certain elements that I wasn't able to do back in 2010. And since I never really got beyond the prologue of the series, why not just start fresh and renewed? With all that I've learned, I could do so much that can make the MRA better than before. But don't worry, I won't put in useless scenes like George Lucas did with the original Star Wars trilogy. Okay, the next question is the last one for Thomas the Tankman 111, and that is, what's your favorite piece of Thomas merchandise you own? Well, I do like my Hornby Thomas, even if it is a basic model of the E2. Wouldn't it be nice if Hornby would release a realistic E2 class locomotive with extended side tanks? Oh well, better make do with what I've got. Do books count as merchandise? Because I thoroughly enjoy any book written by the Audreys. Okay, next YouTuber is Tank Engine 97, and his first question is, will Lily and Patch have children in the Magic Road Adventures? Now, I have said in my summer update that I wouldn't answer any MRA questions that could risk spoilers, but in this case, I'll make an exception. This question seems harmless enough. Anyway, to answer your question, it's possible that Lily and Patch will have children in the MRA. However, that's not likely to happen until the Aftermath series, which takes place after the Battle series. To be quite honest, I don't know myself, since I haven't really made much development to the Aftermath other than its title and the principal characters. Actually, now that you mentioned it, if they were to have children, the stories won't have them involved as much. I mean, think about it. You've got yourself a baby child, one who needs all the care in the world. You won't have time to be involved with other matters that the other characters are going through. Plus, I'm not really sure if it's a good idea to leave a newborn child in the hands of a nanny, Or other alternatives, like make the child an orphan. Yeah, I could be wrong, but Lily and Patch being less involved in the MRA, having to deal with a newborn child, seems to be the most logical scenario. I'm just going to safely say that it's possible that they'll have children, just that I don't know yet. Perhaps they'll have children towards the end of the Aftermath series when the Magic Road Adventures comes to its conclusion and Lily and Patch decide to retire from their adventures. 'Cause, well, the adventures would be over by then. I don't know. The later the better. I like Lily and Patch. I don't want to toss them out of the MRA series. They can do all the things the trains can't do, and they have vital roles in the MRA. I can't think of any other human who can help the engines out. Next question. Will any other characters besides Thomas, Lady, Patch, Lily, and Diesel 10 be featured in the series? Definitely. The railway fleet will appear from Edward to Oliver. The Scullery railway engines will also have a possible appearance in the battle. Splatter and Dodge will also have cameos, and Bernard and Tasha will have prominent roles in the first half of the Legends series. Plus, I'm creating a whole range of new characters for the Legends series, but I won't tell you who they are yet. If you're wondering about any television characters, I'm not certain if most of them will have large roles, but it's quite likely that Luke will appear in the Battle series. That's all I will say for now. Next question. Where did the creation for Diesel 9 come from? Well, it started when I thought about why Diesel 10 would be fitted with a claw in the first place. Working in the scrapyard would be rather generic for a railway villain. I recalled seeing them at Great Smoky Mountains Railway's homemade grappler and thinking how similar it was to Diesel 10's arm. After a bit of research, I found out that it was used for maintenance of way service, or permanent way in the UK. I thought that it would be an interesting job for Diesel 10 to take on, and realistic too. I mean, the grappler was made for permanent way. It's built into a diesel, so it's mobile, its bucket is useful for carrying ballast, and the grappler is great for lifting rails and sleepers. So, why not? From that I knew I had to create the other diesels in the fleet of the maintenance of way. So I went ahead and created all of them with different and unique personalities. Essentially, diesels 1 to 8 are all the good guys. Some of them inspired by the Star Tugs, others based on their specific details and nicknames like the Baby Warship and Western. Of course, there had to be one other bad guy, someone to act as an influence to Diesel 10. So I chose Diesel 9 to be the other villain. For some reason, the number 9 also seemed to have a sinister feel to it. Oddly enough, by pure coincidence, I discovered in the Dante block at my school that they were 9 layers of Hades. Must make D9 more evil than D10, does it? I had also wanted to create a polar opposite of Lady and a pivotal character that can carry the stories along. Originally, I was going to have 16 as the main villain of Lady, and have D9 being a minor villain who just acts as a sort of guide to Diesel 10. Eventually, I decided to have D9 be the ultimate villain of Lady and leave 16 to be a minor villain who appears once in a while. I chose electricity as Diesel 9's magical energy force as it is very painful and very dangerous. It also makes a good contrast to Lady and her gold dust. Although, it is kind of odd considering that he is a diesel, but then I can't really think of an electric engine with magical powers, can't you? Speaking of diesels, for some reason, the Southern Railway's bullied diesel prototype number 11001 seemed to stand out to me as a basis for Diesel 9. This presents a dilemma, however, since Dennis is 11001, and he already has a twin, Norman. Originally, I wanted to avoid this dilemma by making Diesel 9 into a Class 20 diesel, but it didn't have the right feeling for it. So I decided to say, what the hey, and give 11001 a second fictional twin. Oh, and just a friendly reminder. please don't take any original character I make and change it and claim it as their own without my permission. Okay? I don't want to have to lose my temper and rant at anyone else about that. Okay? Okay, next question. Would you like to see the director's cut of Thomas and the Magic Railroad released onto DVD? I would very much like to see the director's cut of Thomas and the Magic Railroad on DVD. It's the version of the story that everyone should see. I've purchased the script from Scriptfly thanks to Solar Island fan site's Magic Railroad mini site, and let me tell you, the story that's in the script is much more interesting than the actual film that was released. Anything that could be done to bring the original story to reality would be definitely worth trying. Next and last question for Tank Engine 97, and that is, what are your thoughts on the World War II Thomas movie so far? Well, I haven't thought much about it, as it seems that no progress has been done to it whatsoever. I was impressed by the poster when I first saw it, but that was about 5 or 6 years ago, and nothing else was mentioned since then. I'm also not impressed that a subplot was to be another steamer versus diesel confrontation. If this film's supposed to take place during World War II, then the company's way off with their railway series research, seeing as how Diesel, the first diesel engine to arrive on the island, first appeared in 1957, long after World War II was over. So, long story short, I don't have high hopes for this movie. Okay, the next YouTuber is Thomas in 10 Cents 1, and his first question is, what are your thoughts on the director's cut of Thomas and the Magic Railroad? Again, this is something that I feel everyone should watch. It tells more of an epic Thomas film than the final version of the film did. Reading the script that I purchased, it seems more of an interesting concept. It gave the world of Shining Time its own villain to contrast with Diesel 10.
Gonna get my revenge, you and that engine.
Showed more development in the relationship between Lily and Patch. Gave more of an insight in Burnett's past and explanations for his depression. And probably a lot more screen time for Thomas and his railway friends. Plus, there's this one element that definitely brings a lot more depth and emotion to the story. And that's the storyteller, who is, in fact, Lily, 20 years from the film's setting. By Jove, it has got to be the most inspirational and most powerful narration that you'd ever get in a children's film. Why it was replaced by Mr. Conductor's second-rate narratives, I don't know. Maybe since Alec Baldwin was narrating the Thomas stories in the USA at the time, they thought they'd give him the honors. Perhaps since he was playing Mr. Conductor and the said character was already the narrator of the Thomas stories in Shining Time Station, they wanted to keep that tradition alive. Maybe because Thomas had always been narrated by male actors, fans might think it's strange for a female narrator to tell a Thomas story. But that's one of the best ideas ever! We've all gotten acquainted with the charm of Ringo Starr, the lightness of George Carlin, and the improv of Alec Baldwin. Certainly in the UK, fans got treated to the familiarity of Michelangelo's narration. There's gotta be a change once in a while, and definitely a female role for the narrator would have been a great change. Also, we have Mr. Conductor telling Thomas stories, but since when have you ever heard him narrate a Shining Time story? The purpose for Mr. Conductor telling the Thomas stories was to educate the Shining Time gang on how to solve their problems. In one way or another, there was always a situation which had a relation to a Thomas story, or two, even if not all of them were original Audrey stories. But that's off subject. Mr. Conductor's role in Shining Time Station was to be a motivator. He wasn't always the main character who had a problem. Several other characters had to deal with a problem of their own, and Mr. Conductor has to provide them with inspiration and determination to solve it. In Thomas and the Magic Railroad, Mr. Conductor gets the tables turned and ends up being a character who needs help. And guess who helps him?
I don't know.
Steaming Lily Stone! What's more, the narrator's role in Thomas and the Magic Railroad wasn't to assist anyone with their problems. It was an account of one sole person describing one of the greatest adventures of her life. Sure, Mr. Conductor was involved with this adventure, but think about it. Would he really have an intention of retelling the story other than to a movie audience? Well, he might, but since he's been practically around magical elements and talking trains all his life, it wouldn't really make such a big deal and would be no different than any other story he's told. Lily, on the other hand, has every purpose because she's telling this adventure to her children 20 years from then. No other character in the film would be perfect for telling this great tale because the story centers on Lily. It's her adventure. She has every reason to be the storyteller. This is the first time she's ever gotten involved with actual magical elements and talking trains. She'd want to share these amazing discoveries to the world. Would you imagine Bernard Stone telling the story, or Patch, or Thomas the Tank Engine?
No.
Heck no. Bernard would focus a lot on his depression at that time. And if you can imagine a movie like that, that's where you'd be saying, "It's Thomas the Flying Tank Engine!" Patch wouldn't say much because he hasn't shared Lily's adventures and has little to no idea. True, Lily would tell him her experience, but it wouldn't be the same. And, seriously, can you imagine Thomas being a storyteller?
What do you think, Mutt?
Now, what kind of an answer is that?
What's more, it's revealed at the end that Lily grew up to be an engine driver like her grandfather. Had you kept that scene in the final cut, then probably a large percentage of the blame on Thomas for a lack of female drivers would have been reduced. Whatever the reason for its cut, it ruined a good opportunity of the film to be at least 90% better than it is.
Botheration! Sparkle, sparkle, sparkle.
Next question. What's your least favorite character from the Railway series and television series? How can there be a dislikable character from the Railway series? Every character created by the Reverend Audrey and Christopher Audrey were written perfectly. True, there were a good number of one-off characters, but for the time that they appeared, even they received good writing and character development, and at least were informed of the fate of these characters. For the visiting steam engines, they have their own individual sense of pride in their work and an eagerness for being really useful. For visiting diesels, they are startled at the fact at how much the Northwestern Railway hasn't been affected by the modernization plan and reject the old-fashioned ways because they're more used to modern technology. Understandable enough, but they all receive paybacks for their harsh attitude. In a variety of ways, even Victoria had a good character development. She was kind, friendly, and in many ways a character you'd want to see more of. Now for the television series, that's a totally different subject. For several new characters that have appeared in the TV series, they've had poor development, and in most cases the same situation, giving the Sudrian engines problems. For some of the TV characters, I dislike them because their details don't fit with them whatsoever. These are Hank, Freddie, Whiff, Molly, Belle, Porter, Connor, and Caitlin. Now, before you start ranting at me, I don't hate these characters. I think some of them have good personalities and good potentials. But that's not what bothers me. What bothers me is that their bases of real locomotives don't tie up. Take a look at the American engines, Hank, Porter, Connor, and Caitlin. These locomotives aren't built to run on the UK trackage. Rosie's the only Yank that was actually built for overseas purposes. But for the four I mentioned, they had to be downscaled so that they could match with the loading gauge. What, did you run out of British Railway engines to provide for models, or did you decide to increase your American audience? If you'd wanted to introduce American engines, couldn't you at least use some bases that were actually built for overseas purposes? I mean, I can see Hank has an S160 engine, but a Pennsylvania K4? I vote no on that. To make matters worse, Hank was originally planned to be a Union Pacific Challenger. A UP Challenger! A smoking 487.1 ton Union Pacific Challenger! Do you guys even know that the S160 exists? Hello? USA engine? Built for overseas railways. Perfect character development from that. And as for Porter, his downscaling makes him smaller than an average truck. Surely he could have used the second 100 class Yank tank that at least wouldn't be pink. And as for Connor and... Hang on, I'm getting something. Uh-huh. Yeah. But... Oh. Okay. I just got a telepathic message from Lady. She told me that I should stop ranting about engines being pink. For one reason, it's because it's discriminating towards pink engines, and for another thing, it's insulting her because technically she is plum, and that's in the color range of pink. So, from this point on, I will stop nitpicking about pink engines. But I'm still irritated by the fact at how basic the design for Rosie is. I mean, it still looks like a toy train. Couldn't you at least make it more realistic? As for Connor and Caitlin, perhaps they're trying to set a tone for futuristic-looking steam engine prototypes for use in the UK, but if they didn't, I'd make them into a coronation class and a spam cam instead of using American engines. Or better yet, introduce Pip and Emma, a high-speed train that could probably be more likely to pass Gordon and Spencer in a flash. Now for Whiff, Molly, and Belle, it's the duties they're assigned to. Whiff's original basis, Aerolite, was built to all passenger trains, speedy ones at that. But Whiff's role is... moving rubbish. That's an insult to Aerolite. It's even more insulting when you realize that Whiff has the same number as Aerolite, 66. Now, I have a thing towards engines and their numbers. I think that if there's a specific Northwestern Railway engine that has the same number as a real locomotive that no longer exists, like Duck and Oliver, or a made-up number like Bear, Donald, and Douglas, they're safe. But to have two engines, one on Sodor and one on England, who are of the same class, have the same number, and both exist to this point, that's a paradox. Salty, Victor, and Whiff are three characters who have this dilemma. Molly has an unfair role of hauling trucks for several occasions. She was built to pull fast passenger trains. Give her the express for Pete's sake. And as for Belle, why is she made for firefighting? It's completely redundant. If she uses up water in her own tanks for putting out fires, she wouldn't have any left to make steam. She'd blow up during any firefighting situation.
I just want to be real.
Think, people! Think! Now, in Freddy's case, he's number 7 of the Skalori Railway. Ivo Hughes, number 7! He's already gotten a wooden railway model and a trading card promotional image. Surely you would have noticed those, if not the Railway series books he appeared in. I'm also going to add Den and Dart to the list because they seem to have deviated from their original personas. Den was supposed to be slow with his thought processing and unable to finish sentences, while Dart can read his thoughts and say what Den wants to say, usually starting with, "What he means is," so on, so on. Nowadays, Den seems to always complete a sentence, leaving no purpose for Dart to say, "What he means is." If you want to keep it like that, have Dart say instead, "In other words," or "contrary-wise." If not, then have Den and Dart fit their original personas. Well, anyway, now that I've got those rants out of the way, it's down to my ultimate least favorite, intolerable TV characters. And those are, you guessed it, Billy, Dennis, Charlie, and the Logging Locos. God, I hate these engines! Billy's an intolerable and idiotic jerk. Dennis is an inconsiderate and lazy bum. Charlie sabotages the railway by telling bad jokes and dragging every engine out of their jobs to play with him. The Logging Locos are annoying and unrealistic, going faster than they're supposed to, worrying about running out of oil when they said they could run on wood, and certainly wood is a much more plentiful fuel than oil considering where they live, one of the twins starts the sentence and another one finishes it, going on and on until the big goofball concludes it by saying, "That's right!" You see how that's a good waste of character development? Heck, it's even a waste of time having to go through this here poison. I hope you're happy for this answer, because I did not enjoy discussing about it. Next question. What are my thoughts on some fan-made stories and series? Well, it depends on what fan-made stories you mean, because I can't really say I've seen too many of them. I can tell you about what I think of the stories I have seen. One of my all-time favorites is Thomas and the Mad Bomber by Leo Kim Video. That video has a rarity of visuals that you don't really see in a YouTube series. It has Erdl Thomas trains, basically made yet exquisitely detailed sets, variety of voice actors, a good mysterious plotline, and explosions. Explosions! And not the random fake explosions made with CGI, pyrotechniques, actual pyro effects created explosives. It's a shame that these series didn't develop much for a second episode, and more of a shame that it was the result of YouTubers ranting at Leo and giving him death threats because of this episode. Seriously, I don't get you people. You want to see Thomas the Tank Engine with more epic action, more explosions, and more suspense, and you treat this video like it's trash? I think you wouldn't sense creativity even if it was in your face. Another series I like is Thomas's Magical Adventures by Rosie the Cutie 1995. While not as visually detailed as Thomas and the Mad Bomber, it still does have some very suspenseful storylines and good voice actors to portray the characters. One of my favorite episodes is Henry and the Kittens. It's such a really moving story, and the ending of it is really funny. I won't ruin the plot for you, so go ahead and check it out. Recently, episode 10 came out, and it introduced Lady and the Magic Railroad. I won't ruin too much of the story, but what I can say is that Lady's origins was told in Kirsity's own way. Some of you might think that because I already told a great enough origin story for a lady, that I wouldn't care for this retelling. I disagree. My story ties in more with the version of Thomas and the Magic Railroad that was released. Kirsity's is a rewrite to tie in with the continuity of her particular series. So, I'm open to having a different version of Lady's beginnings being told for that purpose. And, who knows, it might be better than mine, and I might learn something new for any future development for the MRA. Two old but classic series I like are from Miss Oliver and Blossom and Train Boys 7. I usually watch these shows when I want to see some comedy, and these stories are just so hilarious. My favorite stories from each YouTubers are Lost in the Scrapyard and Percy and Cupid, respectively. Lost in the Scrapyard is a Thomas-fied version of a Homestar Runner story, but with more comedic twists. Percy and Cupid, I assume, is an original story, but it shows the problem when the love-bringer comes to Sodor, and it's told in a really funny way. It also introduced me to Fifi La Fume from Tiny Toons. Wouldn't want to wear a skunk outfit around her. Another funny series I like is Tomica Thomas and Friends from Diesel D199. Some stories start off like an episode from the TV series, and then goes on in an inventive twist. Other stories are original stories, but still pull it off well. Two of my favorites are Full Dream Ahead and Trick or Treat. I really like seeing what the engines have for nightmares that take on total twists of what they're usually known for within the realm of that series. I also like the spooky plot line that was in Trick or Treat. Actually, I'm not sure, but I think Trick or Treat was inspired by a comment I once posted, wondering what would happen if the demon that possessed Duck met up with a Slender engine. Oh well, only Diesel D199 would know. One creative series I like is Enterprising Engines by Enterprising Engines 93. The stories in these series are so inventive, and they tie in well with both the Railway series and the television series. Obviously, he has taken inspiration and facts from both series and placed them in his own stories. My favorite episode is Swashbuckler, especially the whole subplot about the little engines discussing about Proteus. Again, I won't ruin the plot for you, but the creativity here is so ingenious that it really makes you want to watch this series and find out more about what would happen. Quite honestly, I wish I could put that aspect into the Magic Road Adventures series. That's all I can think of at the moment. If there's any you think I forgot or any show you think I should watch, let me know. Okay, on to the next YouTuber. JoelJag942, if I pronounce that right. And his first question is, do I like Diesel 10 and why? Let's just say he's a likable villain. I don't like him all that much, but he's kind of a likable villain. Funny thing is that when Thomas and the Magic Railroad was released in theaters and onto VHS and DVD, I refused to watch it because I was terrified of Diesel 10. I mean, look at the guy on the poster! That claw is chuffing huge! Oftentimes I imagine Diesel 10 to have a very scary persona, and a very fast and violent claw that could rip an engine to shreds in seconds. I don't see why people saw P.T. Boomer as a scarier villain than Diesel 10. Diesel 10's a giant train, with a claw that can impale you! P.T. Boomer's just an old man dressed in black and carries explosives that he probably got illegally. I still have that hunch that it was an excuse made up by secret agents of hidden entertainment hiding in its test audience looking to flaw the film so as to obtain the copyright of Thomas and the Magic Railroad. I mean, Thomas the Tank Engine.
Gonna get my revenge, you and that engine.
It wasn't until Calling All Engines that I saw Diesel 10 in action and found that he's not that harmless anyway. Sure, his character was flawed, but then again, the whole movie is messed up. Probably a year or so later, I saw Diesel 10 in Thomas and the Magic Railroad and found he's just a comedic villain with a clumsy grappler. I'll admit it's been a challenge trying to come up with a backstory for his role, but for the MRA, but I hope it'll provide with some great response, as soon as I can get back to the MRA production. It's funny to note that out of all the characters in the Thomas and Friends brand, Diesel 10 has had the trouble of having to change voices the most. First, in Thomas and the Magic Railroad, you have Keith Scott.
Losing your sparkle, eh? What perfect timing!
Then you have Neil Crone with a Russian accent, which we don't have any evidence to listen to, but it would have been fun to hear. Losing your sparkle, huh? What perfect timing! Before settling on Neil Crone with a New Jersey accent.
Losing your sparkle, huh? What perfect timing!
Then in Misty Island Rescue, you have Rupert Degas.
You'll be laughing on the other side of your boilers soon, silly steamies.
Who was then replaced with Matt Wilkinson.
You'll be laughing on the other side of your boilers soon, silly steamies.
I mean, the guy has had more voice changes made than Henry has had alterations to his image. If I had to choose a favorite voice for Diesel 10, it would have to be Rupert Degas's. That's the best voice for Diesel 10 I've ever heard. Honestly, I don't understand why they had to switch to Matt Wilkinson. His Diesel 10 voice is just as bad as Henry's American voice. I can't stand it. On a side note, the laugh he does at the end of Misty Island Rescue isn't even his real laugh. It's Rupert Degas's.
You'll be laughing on the other side of your boilers soon, silly steamies. Yes.
Matt's actual laugh for Diesel 10 doesn't even come close to sounding like that.
Make me.
In fact, it's so bad, I can't even think of anyone else who I can compare him with. Oh well, let's just keep our fingers crossed that the next time Diesel 10 appears, he'll have a better voice actor than Matt Wilkinson.
You'll be laughing on the other side of your boilers soon, silly Steve.